talking to my friend about his sister moving into a new place because her house burned down, and then I'm getting so when do we do it? And I'm like, you know what am I? I'm imagining like, I'm picturing what am I going to do? Is Ralph going to try to kill himself on the show? Why am I having these thoughts?
I understand you.
I'm going to put my hands on you, and you're not going to stop me.
I'm not going to stop you.
And if you try to stop me, I'll fucking kill you. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
Anyways, let's get back to the real victim here. Ethan, Oliver, Ralph. What's Ralph been up to? Oh, yeah, bro. Okay, here we go. Setting the stage, chat. This is a thought experiment. Any resemblance to real people or events is purely coincidental and unintentional. Fictional writing is not illegal. Imagine you were at your lowest point, or at least at one of your lowest points. You hadn't heard a word from your wife in over a month and a half. You're clean, but you're a lifelong chronic drug abuser. Every day you send a message, sometimes a long one, and you can see on WhatsApp that they read it. One time you can even see that they are online at the same time as you. All you have to do is say one word, any word really. Instead, they let you hang. This person gave you kudos for saving their life. They credited you with helping them to discover themselves as a woman, as a mother, as a person. They told you that you saved them from the worst horror imaginable and that they wouldn't know where they would be without you. Yet, they tell you nothing of your child. They tell you nothing of themselves. For 60 days during the most perilous time of your recovery, they leave you on red without a word written back in response. Not only that, they also send you their attack dog on Twitter to spread the most vicious lies about your deceased family, your life, your relationships, and you say nothing. These are known lies, by the way. Your wife knows for a fact they ain't true. This is no intervention, however. No word spoken in public in your defense, just the wait for the inevitable collapse which of course happens. You're an addict after all. You wanted to hold on, but you gave in. One sign that they cared could have changed everything, by the way. It may have changed nothing, but you will never know now. A cascade of calamity proceeds to unfold, as the attack dog knew it would. Yet one word from the person who said they would die for you, who said they were your soulmate, could have changed the course of history. Perhaps they were afraid. Maybe they were cowardly. Some parts of themselves probably even enjoyed the torture you were going through, seeing it as getting even for the times you had done them wrong, which were many. It's possible, and even probable, that they were bought off with cash and other incentives. What does that make them, though, if true? Then, over a year later, you hear nothing about your child, much less from them. They hide behind bogus mechanisms designed to silence the person that they credited with saving their life, the person they pledged their life to, actually. The person who gave them another literal life to cherish and take care of. What would you call this kind of person? That's not to say you're perfect. You clearly aren't. You've done a lot of bad things, including to them. When shit hits the fan, though, they left you for dead. When things were good, even great, they were happy to be on your arm, soaking up the rewards and the attention. Now, they cut you out of your child's life. At any moment, they could change course, yet they refuse. How do you explain a person like this? Cruelty on a scale that's unimaginable to me personally. I wasn't raised that way. These sorts of tactics are foreign to me. I remember Steve Austin said, "Don't trust anybody." I used to think that was a cool saying back when I was a kid. Now I think it's, for the most part, the way to live. Because a person who could tell you that and treat you in this way, you were a fool for trusting in the first place. You are truly better off not trusting anyone. A great WWF shirt and an even better life slogan. By Ethan Ralph, age 13. Well, it seems like the crushing despair of being alone in a avocado shack in the Yucatan Peninsula at 110 degrees with 100% humidity is wearing on poor Ethan Ralph. If only he didn't burn every bridge and threaten May. I want to remind you that the thing that got May to f*** off was that he got drunk, told her to clean up his piss bottles that he had knocked over, and then threatened to murder her. As you can hear the child screaming in the background. So it's kind of hard to feel any sympathy for him, chat, I think. This is called Most Women Are Evil.
Now, since I'm not doing a show today, I decided I would do a video. And the idea I had in my head for the video was basically that all women are evil. That was going to be the thesis of the video. But that's not exactly true, because first off, my mother, one of the best people I've ever known, that would be disrespecting her. She was definitely not evil. My grandmother was not evil, although she was fiery. She was not in the same category as my mother. Great woman, totally different woman from the Depression era. I don't think it's all women are inherently evil. I just think it's about 70 to 80%. I was going to say 90 to 95%, but we'll be generous and say 70 to 80%. And somebody left a comment on my fictional diary entry last night that I posted on Twitter. And they said, your mother is the only person who won't use your weakest moments against you when they think it's to their benefit to strike back or to leave you or to try to take your child away from you or anything like that. Your mother is the only person in your life who won't do that. And once you lose that, you've lost that forever. I would amend that to your grandmother. Maybe my grandmother was like that. She wouldn't do that either. But I think that's true. And I don't know what it is about women that just make them completely untrustworthy whores and psychopaths. Not all. I amended it to 70 to 80%. But there really is something wrong with a lot of women, and I don't know if it's modern culture that's made them worse or whatever. But there certainly is a mean streak out there that is almost unexplainable. I have dealt with it, am dealing with it, and it's psychotic what they'll say to you and how much you meant to them, and then just stab the knife right in your back.
Stab the knife right in your back. What could you possibly do to a woman to get them to stab the knife in your back? Let's think about that for a second.
Yeah, that ain't appropriate, and I don't give a fuck whether you're approving or not. Clean that shit up.
Stop.
$1 million?
Stop. Ethan, I'm gonna clean your desk. Stop.
You think you're gonna talk to me like this? You're not. Do you understand? Do you understand? Do you understand? You won't talk to me like this.
I understand.
Do you understand?
I understand.
Go ahead.
I'm getting a towel.
You're what?
I'm getting a towel.
You're what?
Getting a towel to clean up your desk.
You're getting what?
A towel.
I'm not gonna hurt you, but I'm telling you, you won't talk to me like this. Do you
I
understand?
understand.
Do you understand?
Please don't put your hands on me, Ethan. I understand you.
I'm going to put my hands on you, and you're not gonna stop me.
I'm not gonna stop
And
you.
if you try to stop me, I'll fucking kill you. Do you
Yes, I
understand?
understand.
Anyways, let's get back to the real victim here.
I would have to say you would be psychotic to get married or have children unless you are like 1,000,000% certain that you found
victims here. I'm talking, of course, about Ballsman Jack. Finally, the real topic that I actually care about. Ethan Ralph. Near and dear to my heart, always, the Ralph and Mail content. Ralph had moved to Tijuana, which of course is just south of California, and very near to his son, Alexander, who he intended to see and wanted to see so badly that he wrote a plea to the prosecutor in Minnesota to lift his nationwide search warrant so that he could pay a fine, so that he could be allowed back into the United States without getting arrested, so that he could travel up to LA and see Xander. It did not go well. Harry Morris, the baby mama dada, said that Ethan Ralph did not even attend his last meeting for Xander, or could not attend. I think it was, he said in chat that he came f***ed up, so he wasn't permitted by, because when they do these meetings, they do them in like a court-mandated space, so I think there's a social worker there to oversee that the visitations are healthy and productive. So when he showed up, the social worker noticed that he was intoxicated, and said that he couldn't attend. That's just what Harry Morris said. I don't know if that's actually true. I don't think Ralph confirmed or denied this in any way, so I don't know. Kind of a thing, because it's crazy, he talks about how much he loves his son all the time, and he can't even stop popping pills. But while he was there, something happened. What happened is not particularly clear, so a lot of this will be inference. I did unblock Dax just out of the blue, just to send him a message for the first time in like 4 years, to ask him a question. It was a burning question. I asked, what the f*** did you do? And I got a very indirect answer, but I have a theory. Ralph says after this, he says, I'm quitting. I'll finish up some business first, but I'm tired of this. People who have done more drugs than Colombia have holy than thou attitude. He wrote holy than thou. I guess I'll try to read this as he wrote it. I'm just done with it. I'm going to see my son the next 2 days and then disappear. Oh, and your new co-host sucks bad. Vito the pedo is held in higher esteem than me. You can't make this up. SARS of the past, women did drugs, coke, DUI. Vito children. Kiwi Farms was right. What he wrote. This was the start of a moment where many Kiwi Farms scholars were debating if this was kayfabe or not. As we all know, Ralph sometimes likes to get into a little bit of a hoopla with people on the internet, and sometimes it's not completely organic. So, Dax and Ralph have been good friends, I would say, for at least 4 years. It was pretty much exactly at the time, even longer, where I was still on the podcast, that he was friends with Ralph, so it's been even longer than that. They met up many times. Dick's gone out of his way to go to his events. Ralph famously went to his studio when they were out of town and got so f***ed up that he passed out on stream twice and initiated his divorce with his wife, May. And then people at the time, May's suffering had become a recurring trend on the stream, where I would just say, suffer, horse. Because I really hated May. So every time I just saw her looking horrified and miserable, I would just say, suffer, horse. And then while Ralph was out of his mind in Dick's studio, people in the chat were saying, suffer, horse, because he was ranting about May. And it was like, yeah, suffer, horse. And Goodbye Horses was playing, because it was like a super chat that just said suffer, horse, with Goodbye Horses attached to it. And it's like, he was like vibing to Goodbye Horses, like, suffer, horse. It was really Kino, as they say. It was really awesome. So what I was trying to get to is that Dick and him have gone a long way back, and Dick has always enabled him, always said he's just doing fine, he's not that concerned, don't tell another man what he can put into his body, yada yada yada, that kind of enabler shit. So it's like, okay, there's no way he actually had a falling out with Dick. But then more receipts came out. Vito Comedy, aka Vito Jaswalzi, a man who has admitted multiple times to be sexually attracted to children, says Bro, you literally asked me to lunch yesterday. Ralph says, I wanted to study how pesos lure their victims. He says, well, okay. That's the screenshot. He says, I'm not really quitting. I'm going on the warpath. Obviously. Implying he's going to go after Dax. Off, loser. Oh, wait, no. This is Chris Brunet. And Chris is like kind of popular on Twitter. And for some reason, he followed Ralph. And Chris was like, bro, if you don't like stop whining on Twitter, I'm going to unfollow you. So he says, off, loser. Go obsess about the groiper some more, which you are not very good at. You have no idea how I'm about to burn this down. Oh, you want a heel turn, you're about to get one. Or face, depending on your perspective. He then quote tweets the thing you replied to earlier and says, Vito, you have never been funnier than me, except as a running joke. Sorry, I'm reading this way too sober. Vito, you have never been funny than me, except as a running joke about people. Low tier and Dick picked you just to make fun of you, Lamau. Ricada, you allegedly dosed your child with coke. Why let him Holt rail your wife? April admittedly an upgrade. I am changing everything. Howard Cosell. I'll tell it how I see it. Stable change. Ethan Ralph, Vito pretends that he prays and says, I will pray for you, buddy. And Ralph says, no, you'll suffer. And then Vito says, you burn bridge speedrun doesn't work on me, Ralph. And he says, okay, show up and I won't hurt you, fool. And then I think there's a part where he says that he's going to go to Dick's house. That might be coming up. Ralph says, I'm telling you, I love my son, but I came out here for an event. Don't play with me. 2022 LSD galore. And you shit on me in favor of Vito? Okay. I hope everyone is happy with their decisions. No. No, just no at the end. So I think Dax then on the next episode, because I think this happened right before the next recording happened, so I think he addresses this. Very rare do I play clips from his show on my stream, but I feel like this is the appropriate time.
And we have a podcast that we do. I don't think that me and you doing a podcast means that you guys can't also
look. I'm doing real work.
Right.
Like I'm in the middle of the day doing real work.
Sure.
Actual, face to face, Zoom shit. Talking to my friend about his sister moving into a new place because her house burned down, and then I'm getting.
It's a bad time.
I'm getting texts about. So when do we do it? And I'm like, you know what? What am I? I'm imagining like, is this just going to be another shit show? I'm picturing. What am I going to do? Is Rock going to try to kill himself on the show? Why am I having these thoughts? Why am I thinking about this at all?
Didn't he come over? What was it? Was it this summer or last summer?
Mm-hmm.
And he was kind of he seemed like he was like kind of wavering on the the
precipice of death, the veil of death. Yeah,
it seems like his addiction struggles for some reason when he comes to California seem to really weigh heavily on him. Maybe it's the flight takes a lot out of him. Maybe it's you.
People can't be around me.
I don't know.
Learned that. People get around me.
Well, you did ruin Bo. You turned Bo Black's trans somehow with your.
Yeah. It's because I am the demon.
According to the fucking internet.
Very funny. My question to him on Twitter was, and I'll pull this up. I asked, okay, what did you do? He said, I said no, LOL. I said, did you not want him over because of the pregnancy or something? And then I added to make him feel confident in talking to me. Your secret is safe with me. I just gotta know. He then says, maybe a little bit. Ralph's got a serious problem. Me turning into the joke intervention would be more enabling than I'm comfortable with. And then I asked what he was on, and Dick did not really have any clue. So, I have a sneaking suspicion that what happened on the night that Marie took a gun and snuck into the basement while Dax was having an Ocular Rift goon sesh, and she put the onto the back of his head and said, "Okay, buddy, we're going to have some changes around here." One of the things that she stipulated during this buck breaking was that there would be no more up allowed in her house because she was now pregnant, or ever again because she would then have a child. So I think that was one of the things that made him reconsider having Ralph around. And Ralph is somebody who, as a person, has an immense, deep personal flaw. And I mean this sincerely when I say this. I think that Ralph's biggest personal flaw is that he has absolutely none whatsoever, no way to cope with any kind of stress. If anything happens that is adverse to him, he becomes a violent, psychotic, flies off the handle, starts making things worse. Like, he has zero healthy coping mechanisms. He has extremely thin skin, some of the thinnest I've ever seen, and he has absolutely zero coping mechanisms that are not disastrous. Like, even Chris Chan, if you piss Chris off too much, he just ignores you. He just goes away. And that's like 1,000 times more healthy to certain extents than what Ralph does. He just has no way. So when Dick says you can't come over, he probably doesn't say why, but it's like, I'm busy and I got a pregnant wife, or perma-girlfriend, sorry, not wife. I was like, I don't want you over. And he, of course, can't handle that. And Dick is still like a friend, so he takes that on Vito because he accurately says that Dick prefers Vito to him, because he does. Gets offended by that because it's worth being offended over. But still is like very slow to actually be mad at Dick himself because he values him so much. Just Dick. No, I thought Vito also, but Dick blocked him. He says, "Sad. I wish I could have blocked the dick up your ass." Now, the dam has broken, and Milo Yiannopoulos, who just days ago planning to have an epic drug stream with Dax and Ethan Ralph on the Dick Show, then suddenly posts a picture of Dax drawn as a cow. If you don't know, Dick Masterson, also known as Dax Herrera, also sometimes goes by the name Juju the Cow, because according to the Simpspiracy messages with Jamie Lynn Hughes, he both like getting f***ed in the ass and dressing as a cow, which has led me to consider that perhaps these things were related, and that he likes to get f***ed in the ass while dressed as the cow, because that would make sense. It just makes sense to me. I feel like that's a pretty fair extrapolation to make. If you like getting f***ed in the ass, and you consider dressing up as a cow to be a sexual fantasy, then it would only make sense that you get f***ed in the ass while dressed as a cow. I think that's fair. I think it's a fair thing to assume. But Milo Yiannopoulos suddenly found that Juju posting was funny. This was a thing that Jesse had been doing for a while, but he started the Juju posting. He's the first vampire of Juju posting. He's patient zero, and now Milo has caught the bug and is now Juju posting. Ethan Ralph, as he does, wrote a diary entry on Zitter. Elon Musk gave him some characters, so he's going to use them. He says, fuck Harry Morris, obviously. He's a piece of shit. But he contacted Masterson early on when it was clear that I was spiraling, and I've been spiraling for a long time with spells of a good time, LOL. He said, "Hey, this guy is a friend of yours. Don't you think you should talk to him and get him help?" Dick was like, "Fuck off, Boomalooza. Stay out of Redacted's affairs." Not the time, Redacted, of course, being the horse. And at the time, I laughed very hard, but I don't think it's as funny anymore, since my life could be a lot different if he had. He's about the only one I would have listened to at that time. I think of that moment often. Obviously, I'm a grown man and I'm responsible for my own life at the end of the day, but the callous disregard, it's like he wanted the content instead of my physical and mental health. People have accused him of that before, but I didn't want to believe it. Even back then. Especially back then. Dick literally cares nothing about anyone's problems and sees them as an inconvenience at best. I'm a little bit selfish, to be sure, but this is on another level. Perspicacity finally talked me into rehab a couple days ago. I have some bookings this week, but I'll be out for at least 15 days next week and maybe 30, depending on their analysis and treatment. Thankfully, rehab is pretty cheap in Mexico, like $900. Perspic is like a motherfucker that pennies compared to America. Take your ass to rehab and stop making excuses about how much it's costing or missing work. So, I'm going to. I have some work to do first, though. It's nasty business. So, perspicacity, the gunt guard of all gunt guards, the gunt licker of all gunt lickers, a man who lives, breathes, drinks, and imbibes with love the gunt grease, has talked Ethan Ralph into going to Mexican rehab. So I'll break this into two thoughts. First, him suddenly blaming Dick for not helping him. I feel like I did make that observation, and I feel like that's I feel like it's fair to criticize somebody like that for exploiting like an alcoholic just to like ack out of him. But I don't know. It's kind of weird for him to even point that out. Like, yeah, he's trying to be like Howard Stern. He like introduced you as like his top hoe and his whack pack. And he kept you around for that purpose so he could make content about you on his stream. He basically did what I do, but by like pretending to give a fuck about you. That's like his entire MO. And yeah, he is selfish. I don't know if you guys remember this, but I'm pretty sure there was a video, like a clip where someone was talking to him about like child molestation and like stopping like child groups. And he's like, "Do you have kids? How many kids have you saved?" He's like, "Be concerned about your own kids before you start worrying about other people's kids getting." And it was about Vito. This was his defense of Vito. It's like, why do you care if other people's kids get molested? He's basically the personification of that Cobson Wojak thing where he's like pointing out the burning of Rome. And he's like, but how does this affect you personally? He's like that, but like a living human incarnate of that kind of nihilism. So now Ralph is very, 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 very late to this observation. Good luck with that. The second part about going to rehab. So, as some people may know, for instance, Bossman Jack, rehab doesn't always work. From what I understand, as many people on the forum have issues with substances, if you can believe that. Rehab only works if you truly, genuinely want it to work. It does not work if you do not want it to work. You cannot force yourself. You cannot make arrangements to like trick yourself into. You cannot like begrudgingly agree to rehab. That's a waste of money. You have to truly and totally want it for yourself. So perspicacity being his motivating factor makes it dubious that this is something that he wants for himself. And what also makes it dubious that he wants it for himself is that he has nothing to live for. I know that sounds cold, but it's true. He has 2 children that he only sees out of spite. In fact, he actually only sees one of those children because he hates women so much that he won't see a little baby girl, even though he named it after his own mother. And Xander knows so little about him that there's not really a family bond there. So he doesn't, I mean, I guess for the kids he does, but okay, let me put it like this. From a personal day-to-day perspective, he really doesn't have that much to live for. Now, this is genuine advice. This is genuine advice. I'm being completely serious. And in fact, if Ralph wants to do this, I will actually go out of my way to help set this up for him. Ralph should take out a $1 million life insurance policy on himself, naming his 2 children as benefactors. And he needs to do this immediately because life insurance has a suicide clause in it that does not cover suicide for the first 2 years. So the sooner he does this, the better. He needs to take out life insurance on himself immediately because he is going to die. And he's probably going to die not from suicide, but from like drug problems within the next year. So that's what he needs to do. And he needs to set this up so that it's a trust and that they inherit it when it's when they turn 18. I think that Hardin can even set this up for you to establish a trust, and then Hardin can manage, if he's willing, can manage the funds, put it into like a S&P 500 for the next however many years for them to collect when they turn 18. But if I was Ralph, I would immediately get life insurance on myself for as much money as I could possibly afford, with the expectation that I would die in the next 5 years, because that's pretty safe to say. In fact, without Dick around and without really anything to go on, I would be surprised, honestly, at this point. It's a hard prediction to make. I think Ralph dies this year. His circle is so small. His income is so strained. His like reason to go on is so small, so like fading. I just can't imagine. Like, I can't imagine how somebody like Ralph, who is enabled too. He shows up on stream and people give him money, and then he can like a Percocet in Mexico is like $2. I think you can get a lot of Percocet for $2. So I already called it. I called it on the forum, but yeah, I'm gonna say it on the stream. I think this is it where Ralph died, because this is like crazy. I strongly, unironically recommend getting a trust set up and getting life insurance for the kids. If you give a fuck at all, I don't even know how much it would cost. I imagine for him it would be quite bad because he's in such terrible physical shape that he might have issues getting life insurance to begin with. If you take meds like Ralph does, they deny you coverage. $50K is pretty good though. I would do that. He should take out literally whatever life insurance policy he can get. If he can get term life insurance for 5 years at a reasonable rate for $50,000, he should get that and set up the trust, because $25K in S&P 500, that's 10% per year compounding for the next 15, 16 years for them to inherit. That's pretty good. That's worth doing. I mean, if you give a fuck at all, immediately, emergency, set up this life insurance and trust. That's my thought. Time to die. That's right. Next, he did a goodbye video for him entering rehab. Holy shit, it's 10 minutes. Holy f***. I'll read the message and then maybe play like a minute of this. This is long. Skip it and watch the video later if you want. First off, go to Sven Staffel's page and buy every single thing there. He's a great guy, and I'm sad I won't be able to fulfill my booking. I know he will come back, hopefully even as the first guest upon my return, if he's down. I went in for like a pre-screen at Rehab, and they were astonished at my drug and alcohol history, including recent history. They wanted to take me in right away because of some markers, but I said I needed the day to get several things in order. I originally expected intake to be Saturday. I arranged to go at 6 tonight. I will record a farewell address in a bit. I want to order my thoughts and actually script something out, which I rarely do on video. Okay, let's watch this. Hopefully it's a heartfelt chat.
The kill stream is in its 10th year. I started this show with my ex-wife Nora and Janet Bloomfield in 2015. Never in my life did I think it would take me to where it has taken me to now, both good and bad. It started as a way to promote my writing and turned into my entire existence. Along the way, it has evolved, and it's had its eras and its different styles and various feuds, but one thing it's always had is me. I am the Killstream. I think most of you know I have a passion for professional wrestling. In wrestling, there's a term called living the gimmick. It's a pejorative term, not a positive one. I brought all the negative aspects you've seen me exhibit into this line of work, but over time, they were just incorporated into my online persona. The Ralph ML is a term someone came up with in 2018 as a joke, and I just ran with it. All the problems I have were simply written into the gimmick. Hard drinker? That's just the Ralph ML way. Do it on air and drink even more. Womanizer? Of course. No big deal. Write it into the story and lean into it. Criminal issues? Sure. Who cares? F the police. Baby mama drama? All good. What are you, a bitch? Burnouts and vicious feuds with former friends and lovers. F them. It's a nasty business and everyone is a snake anyway. Go scorched earth. Trust no bitch. You get the idea. This is not a healthy way to live life, although it has been quite entertaining. Rather than addressing shortcomings when I had many opportunities, I simply papered them over and reinvented things time and time again, including just this past week. In many ways, this has served me well and kept me in the game longer than I ever would have expected. It's also destroyed so many good things I gained along the road. Some people that I love will never return or speak to me again. Money gained and lost and gained again. A man in self-imposed exile in a nation where he doesn't even speak the language. I often look at my life and I wonder, how can it even be real? From West Memphis to Merida, this must be some kind of Truman Show thing going on. But what I really know is that it's all because of choices I have made myself along that road. Some choices end up being eternal, and that's something I never really accepted until I learned it the hard way. It turns out life is not professional wrestling, even if this business may be very similar. You just can't change the script or retcon decisions. You have to live with the mistakes you've made. Sometimes that can be almost...
Such as Alice, someone in chat says. Allegedly. Yeah, he's dead. And I'm actually more convinced of it now than when I first said that, because I've watched like shows about drug rehab shit. And I noticed that a lot of people who went to rehab and came out actually died shortly after. And I think that what happens is that you go into rehab, you go in for 15, 30 days, you come out clean, and you come out with a reset tolerance of these drugs, or a reduced tolerance. And then you go back out and you have a little bit more money because you aren't buying drugs. And then when you fall off the wagon, you go on a bender that's even harder than originally. And then you die because your tolerance is less. You've got money for stuff. And you're like, well, you know what? If I'm off the wagon, I might go really off the wagon. What's the difference between 1 Xanny and 20 at this point? So, I think it's dead.